Really good listening.
I'm wiped. I feel really wiped out today.
Okay, we're live on YouTube.
Smile. Okay. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Trustee Cheney?
Here.
Trustee Foster? Here. Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Calora?
Here.
Trustee McKnight?
Here.
Stephen Gaba?
Present.
Okay. May I have a motion to accept the following reports for October 2023? The Clerk's Office, Tax Collection, Planning and Zoning, Departments of Public Works, Building Department Fee Report, and September 2023, the Building Department Report.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And may I have a motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $486,025.39.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chief, do you have anything for us tonight?
Not at this time.
Okay. And then the next thing on the agenda is the continuation of the public hearing of the application of Warwick LLC for a special use permit. And Raina, would you read the public?
Oh, you know what, I don't, hold on just a moment, sorry. I didn't have the public hearing notices. Sorry, almost there.
Comments from the first graders or second graders.
So cute.
Oh, thank you. Just pulling it up. Thank you. Okay, notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Village Board of the Village of Warwick at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on the 6th day of, well, continuation on the 20th day of November 2023 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter can be heard. That day on the application of Warwick LLC for a special use permit to convert existing first floor office space into 3 one-bedroom apartments and to add 3 additional one-bedroom apartments on the second floor in the building at 8 Forester Ave in the Village of Warwick, Tax Map Section 207, Block 3, Lot 3. The Village Board will, at this above date and time and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the Village Board must be received by the Village Board at or prior to the public hearing.
Now, we had to keep this open because of,
There was need to complete secret
Secret,
review.
yeah.
The planning board has now, it's in your correspondence, completed secret review. The matter was also sent to county planning. I didn't really think it needed to be, but, you know, just to be on the safe side, you've also heard back from county planning. So there's no impediment to, once you've heard public comment, closing the public hearing. And at the last meeting, the board was inclined to go through the factors for a special use permit and direct me to prepare a resolution. If you'd like to do that this evening, that's fine. If you want to put it off to the next meeting, that's fine. You know, in the past, I've just prepared a draft resolution and circulated it to the board. You could pursue that route as well if you wish. There's no requirement that you know, before I draft the draft, you know, tell me what your findings are unless I don't have any idea which way you're gonna go.
okay. Okay. Well, very good. Then we'll open it up to the public if anybody would like to make any comments on this application in public hearing. To give everyone just a sense of what the application is for, it is a conversion of office, a one-floor office space to 2 floors of multiple apartments. Most of them are 1 bedroom, I believe that the planning board has requested a two to be 2-bedroom.
3 on the first floor, 3 on the second floor. I'm not sure which ones are to be multiple bedrooms or not. And I think most of them are 1 bedroom.
Right. And this is the, 8 Forester is, historic building. It's right on High Street and, or Church Street, I'm sorry. And, right now it was used as a doctor's office, and that's, the change is going to be made. There's plenty of parking, which is a good thing.
Off-street parking, yeah.
Okay. Do you have any concerns?
My question was that the building?
Yes.
So you answered that question.
Okay.
I think it's a really good idea,
Okay, very good.
personally.
Yeah. It's nice, close to the center of the village,
Yeah.
walkable.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice use of the building.
So, board, does the board have any more comments?
May I just ask your name that you,
Kendall,
Kendall Kless.
thank you.
thank you. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
And
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Just as a point, so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle here, I think if you could make up something that you could send around to the board, seems like the most,
If that's the board's pleasure, then you can either speak about it at the next meeting or say you agree with it or whatever suits your fancy.
Right. Is the board agreeable to that?
Yeah.
Under correspondence, presentation, I'm sorry.
Yes.
This is the most important part of the meeting.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see members of the Stakeholder Advisory Group here tonight. So we'll be talking about the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan, and hopefully, we can move to adopt that tonight. So what I'll do is I'll go through just briefly for the board as well as members of the public the process that we followed to develop this plan, and also some of the key features, and then would also like to open it up to the floor for our participants tonight to provide comments, and then if anybody who is on the Stakeholder Advisory Group would also like to speak to their experience and their thoughts on the plan, that would be great. So we've got some hard copies, and so I'll pull those up, but I'll talk through the process and some of the key features, and then the board is able to kind of look at will through them. I don't know if there's enough space,
Let me get this.
but
Oh,
oh, sorry. I'll talk through the process first, and then we'll get to that. So just so folks understand the process that we went through, and I've said the word process 18 times, but we hired a landscape architect, Karen Arndt, and she was great to work with. We worked with her for about the last year. We opened the process by holding a public listening session at Veterans Memorial Park last April, not this past April, but the one before, in 2022. And then following the feedback from that public listening session, which included feedback about what's working, what's not working about the park, things that people would, like how they envision the park changing over time, all the feedback from that is also on the website. This entire process is outlined on the website, as well as outcomes of various meetings. But and then folks also provided feedback on who they thought needed to participate as members of the Stakeholder Advisory Group. So we did stand up a Stakeholder Advisory Group, and we met with that group over the course of several months to first integrate all of the feedback that we heard from the public, and then also kind of process the needs of the community and what this should look like. And we went through various iterations of the draft, and then we published the draft for comment and held an open house and provided mechanisms for feedback to be provided both in writing and in person. And we videotaped the open house, and that video is also available on the website. And I do want to give a huge shout out to those who participated in the Stakeholder Advisory Group. Every time I went to one of those meetings, I just left reflecting on what it is to live in the village of Warwick and to have the kind of community that we have, and it was really important to see how everyone was able to really work together, because this process had a lot of different interested parties involved. Members of the stakeholder advisory group included folks from a recreation department, we did have a community-based landscape architect on the stakeholder advisory group as well. We had a middle school student. We had representative from the Warwick Grove Homeowners Association. We had representatives from the skating community, the kayaking community, Little League, football, kickball.
Veteran.
I've got a nice long list here. Lions Club, Heroes Indeed, folks interested in senior citizen recreation, the American Legion, Veterans for Foreign Wars. We had 3 high school students participate. Representatives from Homestead Village, Park Avenue Elementary, the Warwick Library, Warwick Wascals, Rugby, Warwick Playground Dreams, the Arts Community, and the Warwick Fire Department. So it was a group of about 30 different people with very diverse interests, and who used the park in many different ways. And together they were able to build consensus and reconcile these needs to something that we all felt works for our community and will continue to work for the community into the future. So just a couple notes about some of the major, or some of the things that folks will see. These can be classified into kind of 4 big categories: memorials and arts features, team sports, passive recreation, and active recreation. And so what's changing when it comes to memorial and arts features? We had a lot of feedback about features that should be added throughout the park. So instead of kind of memorial features being just at the opening, there are small features that will be throughout the park, and I'll show images of that in a moment. Engraved benches and walkways, movement of the helipad further into the park so that it's not in the parking area, a sculpture park, a ceremony space that can also double as parking, that isn't kind of restrictive of that. More memorial trees, some emergency gating to limit kind of access to that helipad area, and then also a canine veteran memorial in the proposed dog park. So those are some of the memorial and arts features. What's changing about the team sports, a movement toward portable bleachers as opposed to permanent bleachers. So the old school bleachers are coming down. Also reconfiguring the parking around the Little League area to create a much larger, safer pedestrian area. That actually was the last thing that was finalized, and I think that looks really good. Karen did a lot of work on that, and also did some shifting of the baseball diamond in the football area. And then for passive recreation, we're looking at improved and added walkways, increased seatings, some chess tables, public restrooms, which, there was a lot of feedback about that. Picnic areas, a really beautiful bird blind near the library, biking and walking improvements and connections. The plan also includes some improvements actually around the park to improve pedestrian and bicycle mobility around the park, and also connecting this park to Stanley Deming. So the group really also thought about the context of the park and within the larger community. Improved lighting and signage, a boardwalk through the wetland area. There are wetlands throughout the park. The pollinator pathways, and a butterfly meadow. And then finally, with the active recreation, a small tot lot, exercise pads, pickleball. So where the current skate park is, there would be pickleball, and that skate park would be moving and have a brand new skate park, pump track, bocce ball, bike racks, the dog park, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, a kayak launch, tetherball, and bike paths. And then obviously kind of tree planting and habitat creation throughout. So, final piece of my presentation. Before we walk through some of the imagery, and all of this is also on the website for folks that might want to follow along. It's available. If you go to kind of planning, you can click Memorial Park Master Plan, Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan. So finally, I think folks would want to know kind of what might be happening when, and where might the funding for this come from. So there are 4 different places that funding to implement the plan could come from. There's village labor and resources. There's the village capital budget. There's also partnerships. So think something like Stanley Deming, where the community itself raised money to accomplish some of these things. And then finally, grant funding. And we don't have a final dollar amount for this plan because final costs will depend heavily on final designs. And the difference between a plan and kind of a design is that the plan articulates what we're hoping will happen where. It's sort of the feel, but the design is what will ultimately be experienced, and those designs will be completed by, as the plan is implemented. So for example, we know that we're planning a dog park, we have the general area of that dog park, but the final look and feel of that is something that will happen during that implementation process. So during phase 1, and this is stuff that we believe that the DPW can do without a lot of additional resources. It is dependent on their availability. We're looking at the bleachers coming down. People will have already seen that starting to take place because we also have some support from the community to have that done. Working on some of the walking paths with crusher dust. That would be one of the first things. We would like to pave those eventually, but the first thing is kind of getting those paths down, and we can do that in crusher dust. Developing costing for the pavement, which we've been working with our interns that work with Barry on to kind of figure out how much those walking paths will cost. Opening bathrooms to the public. And then some of the other things in phase 1 would be kind of the dog park, kayaking, bocce. Folks may have seen kind of we have some bocce already, but some improvements to that, some of the picnic areas. So some of the things that would be easy to do kind of in-house without a lot of additional expense. Phase 2 would be kind of capital improvements. So think bathroom renovations, not just kind of getting bathrooms open to the public. Completing major lighting improvements and parking lot reconfigurations for the pedestrian areas. And then phase 3 would be further capital improvements, and those would be kind of permanent walking paths and the boardwalk. So a lot of things we think would come from the village budget that have to be worked into our capital improvements plan. But there are a lot of features that we would be pursuing grants for or potential partnerships. So skate park has been funded by a grant, pickleball, various memorial features and art features, exercise equipment, and so on and so forth. So those are things that we would continue to kind of be working for grants and developing partnerships with.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah.
Very good.
And so if
really
members of
amazing.
the public would like to see these as well, these can be made. I'll spread these out. Would anyone like to comment?
Can I, there are members here, what a great testament, and how well you run a meeting of 30 unique. Because it was definitely a tall, and it was not only listening to the folks that were part of the committee, but it was also being aware and respecting all the comments that were made in the listening sessions. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll second that motion too.
Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty inspiring getting to work with you all, and I really loved it, and
May I comment?
yes, absolutely, please.
Tom Brennan, as I represented the American Legion Post 214 as its commander on the stakeholder advisory group, I agree with the mayor. Charlie, you did a wonderful job pulling all this together with so many things. However, in your little talk there, I didn't hear any mention of veterans.
Oh, she did.
Oh, she
You
did.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
but
I think she referred to them as heroes.
in terms of when, the things that Kendall and I met with Carly and the mayor a few weeks back, and we got some things clarified that we were concerned about. And it sounds as if with the stages that you mentioned, that the things that we were interested in terms of individual memorials as well as recognition of America's participation in all of the events, the wars, whenever blood was drawn, they should be mentioned in the park. And I would think that that will be sort of there's a lot more thinking that needs to be done about that. And we've got time to do it. I don't think there's any rush, frankly. My participation on the advisory group, I was always trying to think about the end of the century, really, just for starters. And leaving enough room for another mayor, another board, another group at some point in the future to revise what we did. So this is a very long-range plan in our idea. And I would point out to everyone, as I mentioned at the advisory group, the fact that there's only one entrance and one exit to Veterans Memorial Park, that the first thing you see when you drive in there will be the Veterans section. And then you get to party and play ball and have parties and listen to music and eat hot dogs. Play what? We're gonna play rugby and football and whatever else. And the last thing you see when you leave is driving through the Veterans section. If there was another entrance and exit, that wouldn't be true. But it is true, and that's a wonderful feature of this beautiful piece of property that was donated to the village by World War I people in the mid-1930s. In dedication of those who served in, quote, the Great War, World War I.
Yeah.
A wonderful, wonderful thing. This has been a lot of fun being part of this. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, and one thing I failed to mention is that it did point out to us that we do have some revisions to make to our memorial policy. You know, it's currently worded, for example, that memorials can only be made for village residents, but obviously that's not what we are looking for when we talk about veterans of the town, you know, and this is Veterans Memorial Park, and some other things like that. And there's a whole Heroes Walkway, ceremony space, bricks, and memorial features. I mentioned this earlier, but just to emphasize that the more memorial features would be kind of throughout the park instead of only at the entry.
But I mentioned also that in addition to that, there are only two types of individual memorials right now, trees and benches. So that may have to be expanded as well.
Well, there's this star motif, which we have had incorporated in part of our skate park design, but I see it kind of incorporated on other things, which is really nice.
These are more like, you can think of this as like the Pinterest board. Yeah.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, Tom.
Tom Scott. In reference to what Ms. Brennan just said, the island in the center, as you come into Memorial Park, the monument there is for the veterans. It was the veterans who put it up. Then you have the garden behind there for the 91st. But the road has grown so much that the road is actually touching part of that monument. Has it been taken into account, maybe narrowing the road or shifting it a foot or so for both the entrance and the exit, so that the island is a little bit bigger and the monuments are protected?
That's good feedback.
That's a really,
Yeah, that's good feedback. Right now, it's an area, it doesn't specify. So, yeah.
blacktop is red, see the stones that have been put there. So to give a little bit more room, and maybe expand it out to where it originally was 30,
Actually,
40 years ago.
even at this Veterans Day, the ceremony was held at the
Right.
end of the island because it was so close to the street in the front of the island. So that was,
But that should be, I brought that up many times, that should be expanded back out another 10 or 15 feet, so it's in line with the road.
Yeah.
The way it was years ago, but I think you guys might have been taking that into account.
It does have, I don't know if you saw that, based on the comments that you provided, we did kind of box a lot of this out for improved pedestrian, and then also the entryway. And then also on the right-hand side, coming into the park, has the whole memorial pathway and improvements. But it's more of like an area for future, because that design process will have to have its own, group and vetting and, all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
engineering and architecture.
Yeah.
And we got all the construction up the street, and I think they're supposed to be doing some work down that way also. I don't know what's going on with it.
Drainage,
The
basically.
drainage going straight through it.
A question, will the stakeholder advisory group continue to meet, Carly? Or is our work done?
I think, so that's feedback that I'm looking also to get from the stakeholder advisory group. So following adoption of this plan, I was going to reach back out so that we could kind of after action. That was something that we had talked about doing. It just has taken a little bit longer than we had initially hoped. The survey process took quite some time. But, we have gotten some feedback about expanding the stakeholder advisory group to having an interest in other park spaces as well. Whether to kind of periodically have the group meet to kind of follow the implementation process or to break into smaller focus groups. And so I think all three of those are on the table and really interested in. I did collect feedback from the stakeholder advisory group on those options, and they all seemed like potentially viable. So I think we have to talk about it. Yeah. But yeah, would love your feedback on that.
I know there's more steps to go through this, but is there a wish timeline to start all this process? I mean, to actually start implementing it?
It's, some of the features that we knew were going to happen no matter what have started, like pulling down those bleachers. But as soon as the board adopts the plan, implementation can begin. There are, so community-based organizations are interested in certain features, and so those can begin rolling. We have to kind of schedule out DPW's work on some of these things. We have begun costing some things, looking also at grants. So the answer is we can, once it's adopted, we can boogie. Yeah, as fast as a local government can boogie. Yeah.
We're pretty good.
We're pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely it's an ambitious plan. It's going to take a long time, but various pieces can get going. Yeah.
Yes.
Scott Brown, I'm a village resident. I think it's wonderful to have a long-term vision that's comprehensive and treats that wonderful community resource with the care that it deserves. And I'd like to thank Trustee Foster and the advisory board for the work that they did. It's a really nice piece of work, in my opinion, and thank the trustees for taking good care of our green space and our natural resources and our recreation spaces in general.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just want to throw in thank you to Karen Arndt as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
She was the landscape architect for this project, and it definitely was a tall order. It's a big park, and with a lot of voices, and she was able to listen and to really come up with, I think, a really remarkable vision. So, our vision. So. Trustees, any?
Oh,
Excellent
that's
job,
great,
by,
yeah.
for everybody, Carly, Karen, stakeholders. It was a large group, as I understand it, having heard about it from a number of different perspectives, and it was a very effective process and obvious from the results.
Thanks, and thanks to the mayor as well. You were there every step of the way. And also, there were a couple visitations to the school, and so we got
Yeah.
additional feedback from high schoolers and feedback via a couple other mechanisms as well.
Okay. Any other comments before we move on with our meeting? Okay, thank you.
Do have one more.
Okay.
Landscape of architecture. I don't recall what we talked about landscape. When I thought about the park and design, it might be possible with some relatively minor landscaping where we could create different areas for various types of activities. And I especially think of that in the front of the park with veterans activities and the proximity to the American Legion Post property on the edge of it, that it might be possible to set up areas for perhaps meetings or presentations from a different side, not just in the monuments section right up front, but perhaps over on the edge of the Legion property with a little bit of landscaping to slope things up for speakers. That might be true throughout the park, or there might be
I think
little
that-
areas where a little bit of landscaping might create different specific areas.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
Theater.
I mean, I think that's part of the next steps, of course. And so Karen basically gave us the large strokes of what we want and what we would like and where we want to see this park go. And now it gets broken down into manageable, landscapable parts.
okay.
So that's really kind of the next step.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of that has been, like, as you mentioned in this front area, it's been kind of tagged. You can see, like, in some of the icons delineate kind of where those memorials are and little meeting points and some basic landscaping. But one of the things I failed to mention at the beginning is, like, what is a master plan, and it really is a document that sets out the vision and goals for a particular area to help guide future decisions. So it's a way for us to be really transparent about the way in which a particular place may change in the future, and that change has been articulated by the people that will be inheriting the results of those decisions. And so that's really what it's all about. It's a roadmap in some ways. And so it's not delineating the types of trees or but it does say this is where we want more trees, and this is where we want some landscaping, and this is where, we want some of these other details. Yeah.
There's enough room also for things to change along the way, like you said, like a landscaped area which would create a private space for meetings or something of that nature. So that would be part of those next steps in terms of the details, the real kind of molecular details of the area.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks a
And
lot.
thank you for coming this evening. We really appreciate it. And thank you just to the committee, for all the entire committee, if they're watching this, for just great work and great input. So tonight, under correspondence, we have a letter from the Orange County Department of Planning in reference to the proposed project located at 8 Forester Avenue. And we also have another letter from Orange County Department of Planning in reference to the proposed project located at 43 Wheeler Avenue. And then we also have a letter from the Village of Warwick Planning Board regarding the adoption of a negative declaration and scheduling of a public hearing on the proposed project located at 8 Forester Avenue. Under discussions this evening, if necessary, the continuation of November 20th work session. Trustees?
I think we decided that we would push those to a future,
To the future meeting.
and talk about the newsletter instead, is that what?
Yeah.
We can do that,
We
yeah.
need to talk about the newsletter.
Okay.
Okay, second edition, issue number 2, volume number 1, winter newsletter. I sent everyone a proof. I had it edited. I made some suggested changes in including the Warwick Fire District Commissioner election. Raina brought up a great point that if we include that, moving forward, we would have to include other local elections like the library and the school district, which I don't have an issue including. I think the more information out there, the better. Does anyone have an opinion on that?
I think it's good. It's
Yeah.
important to include all the elections. in
As
the-
long as they're, we have that information in a timely way,
Yeah, I
because
think
they're
we should.
quarterly.
Because they're
newsletters.
usually, they're both usually in the spring, so we could incorporate that. Okay, does anybody have any other?
Just a quick question, to what extent do you envision just mentioning the election and the time?
Just mentioning it, yeah. Time and then
The location, right? You
Mhm.
have the.
time, location, and who's eligible, what it's for, and the term.
Okay.
I mean, the village election, we might want to go into more detail because it's a village election, but we can make that decision when we need to.
We can do a spotlight on Raina.
I'm ready.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything?
I had just commented that I think the next newsletter, we will have adopted all these policies
Mhm.
and,
Hopefully we'll have information from grants that,
Yeah.
yeah, grants, policies, certain capital improvements, and then hopefully, data about Slow Down Warwick.
Yes.
So,
Did you see I did incorporate a little graphic
I
with
did,
your
thank
slow
you
down.
very much for that.
And then I also built out this little standout for local elections, so when if there is a local election, we could just use that same similar graphic.
well, it's been very well received, so I'm looking forward to
you.
its continuation, and I think it's gonna grow. I mean,
Yeah.
right now, I don't think it was as newsy as the first one, but that was a lot of pent-up news, so.
Yeah, and
But
I
I think the next one is going to have a lot of information that we
It's
wanna
this
get.
season too. There's like a lot of activities, so I think it kind of changed. I'm always trying to find the balance between like municipal stuff and hometowny stuff. I mean, this kind of leans heavy on the hometowny stuff, but that's okay. I'm comfortable with that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of newsy stuff that could go in, but we can't afford the insert, so we'll do it.
Yeah.
Or we didn't budget for the insert, so that'll go in the next one.
Yeah,
Well, just to clarify that, in order to include the third newsletter, this will keep us on budget.
Yeah.
By doing 4 pages this, and then doing 6 or 8 pages next.
right.
I think in the next one, we should focus on some of the infrastructure, as Carly mentioned.
Yeah,
Especially, we've been asking for a wastewater treatment plant update, and we could use the next newsletter as a mechanism to talk to our contractor and say, we really need this really described with timeframes and the phases
Yeah.
and an update on the costs and all that.
I agree, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, very good.
Anything else?
Yeah, thanks a lot for your work on this.
Of
Yeah,
course.
Thanks,
it's
Barry, for
really
the
great.
update on
It's
the
a
pump
pleasure.
station relocation and the lead service line inventory.
Right.
So Sanfordville Elementary first and second grade students' ideas for change.
We had so much fun hanging out with the first and second graders. So, just to tell everyone, we were invited by the Sanfordville Pie program to Town Hall on last Thursday as they sort of visited Town Hall and had an experience and a lesson in local government. So there were different stations. The kids had been planning before their visit different policies to think about or write about. There was a voting thing. There was a lawyer there to discuss things. And we had a discussion with the kids along with the town supervisor, Michael Sweeten. And they wrote us letters about changes that they wanted to see. I think they narrowed it down to, what was it, 4 things, Carly?
Well, they could be broken into 3 categories, but it's about 10 things. But they're all reasonable. Actually.
They are.
Yeah.
2 of them I'm really interested in.
Yes. So we wanted to kind of share with the board what they are.
Can I just say one thing? I was at an event on Saturday night, and a parent or parents came up to me, two parents, mother, husband and wife, and they said, "Could we take your picture with the letter that they had on their phone that our daughter wrote?" And it was just wonderful. It was
really cute.
And it was a great comment too. But I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. So the 3 categories are increased mobility support, health and safety, and community and beautification, which are all things that we're all concerned with and make perfect sense for us to be hearing about. Under increased mobility support, they did want to see more bus service and public transportation for people who can't drive, for people whose cars have broken down, and they also need safe places to wait for the bus. And so there is a lot going on around that, and so I thought maybe the mayor and the board could share what's some of the conversations with Dial-A-Bus and things like that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, we are having conversations about
Yeah.
creating a clearer local bus system within the village. There's also discussions about a bus system that connects the 3 villages, which is really something I think that is been needed for a long time. And the other part of that is a greater clarification of where the bus will pick you up, whether it's in a neighborhood or in the business district. Right now, the designation is just by word of mouth.
Yeah.
So the idea is to have signage and to have seating
Yeah.
and potentially shelter at some point. But that's where we're taking it. And we've been having discussions with the Warwick town of Warwick's bus system coordinator.
They also asked for bike lanes, and so that's also something that we've been looking at and working on for a larger transportation safety action plan and grants, bike shares. Under health and safety, first aid kits at the parks. So these are good things, I guess, that we could talk with DPW about. An AED on Main Street. So I know we have one in Village Hall, and I think they are at the park.
Railroad Green.
And Railroad Green, but they feedback about having one on Main Street, as well as having an emergency phone and charging station somewhere.
That is a really great idea.
Yeah. Because they said, not everybody, children in particular, they don't have phones. And also they asked for the addition of children at play signs throughout as appropriate. So encourage drivers to look for children on and around our streets. And then regarding community and beautification, they asked for a dog park, and that's planned in the Veterans Memorial Park. They asked for blessing boxes, so basic goods for people to take if they need them, as well as recycling bins and signs against littering. So specifically, they were hoping that we would have recycling bins on Main Street because it bothers them that all the trash cans are just like for garbage.
Okay.
Yeah.
All really great ideas.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
they sure are.
So let's not let them get lost in the sauce, so.
Yeah, I thought it would be, so some of the things we're already taking action on, we could let them know. And then the other ones we could share with DPW and,
I think a Band-Aid box, as they call it, is a good, easy thing to start on. I think in the spring we can get something and install it somewhere and just have a note. This is if you need a Band-Aid. And I'm sure the idea that Layla had written it was you could add Band-Aids to it too, right? It was like,
yeah. They included full arguments for,
Yeah, it was
and
very
like
cute.
reasons why we might not want to do it, and then some arguments against that. And they said that a Band-Aid box, you might not want to do it because you're afraid people are going to steal Band-Aids, but
but that they
We
would
could-
actively replenish it.
yeah, add the Band-Aids back, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, I think they're all great ideas, and we need to pass them on to Mike Mosier, definitely,
Yes?
yeah. In a more serious way, we now have those Narcan boxes.
Yep.
There is a Narcan device, I guess it is, to administer Narcan. It's in every one of our Code Blue AEDs. So, and that's a climate controlled, at least from the standpoint of freezing. It heats, keeps it warm so that the battery doesn't go on the AED. So there are those boxes there. There's also one here in Village Hall, and we're looking into adding boxes at each of the other Code Blues next to it, so that if somebody can just, and the idea with this is if even if somebody knows they're going to be at a party and that this might happen, that they can remove that and take it with them, and we'll see that it gets replenished. So
Is it the Narcan kits that include the fentanyl testing strips as well? Is that standard
Yes.
now with Narcan? Okay. Thanks.
We'll move on to public comments. If anybody would like to speak to the board on agenda items only, this is the moment. Nope. Okay, so we'll move on to motions, and Trustee Cheney.
motion to hire Matthew Hahn to the position of full-time laborer at the current collective bargaining agreement rate with the condition of obtaining a CDL within 1 year of hire date, start date to be determined by the DPW supervisor, Mike Moser.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Motion to authorize payment number 5 in the amount of $23,578.39 to TAM Enterprises, Inc. for the South Street Sidewalk Replacement Project. The scope of the work covered by this application was included in change order number 1, which was previously approved by the Village Board on October 2nd, 2023. Funds are appropriated in Budget Code A5110.4400 in the fiscal year 2023-2024 budget.
Okay,
Second?
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan prepared by landscape architect Karen Arndt dated October 11th, 2023.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Carly.
Oh, congratulations!
In regard to this resolution, Tom, I mean, of course, if you want to read it, that's fine, but you might want to have the board waive the reading, and then you could just pick up under number 3 after, paragraph 3 after now, therefore be it resolved.
Yes, because it's 3 pages.
Do you want to make that motion then?
How would I word that motion?
Motion to waive the reading.
I'll make a motion to waive the reading.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then just,
Second motion,
that motion was done. Now you wanna pick up on paragraph 3 under. now
that the
they are-
village board hereby grants a request.
Bingo.
The village board hereby grants the request grants the requested special use permit subject to the following conditions. 1, short-term rentals of the dwelling unit shall not be permitted, and the applicant shall prepare and submit to the planning board for approval a site plan containing a note stating that the short-term rentals of the dwelling unit shall not be permitted. And 2, each dwelling unit shall be limited to parking of 2 vehicles on Wheeler Avenue, inclusive of the off-street parking spaces on the property, and in other off-street parking on Wheeler Ave. The applicant shall prepare and submit to the planning board for approval a site plan containing a note stating the same. And 3, that the owners of the subject property shall, at their own expense, preserve and maintain the existing bluestone sidewalks on the property. The applicant shall prepare and submit to the planning board for approval a site plan containing a note stating the same.
Do we have a second?
Not yet.
Second.
Okay, any comments?
Yeah, just a couple, kind of minor things that may need to be cleaned up. In 1B, the third line there, it reads, "The village board has traffic safety in regard to sight distances," and I think the word
Traffic safety.
concerns needs to be put there. And then, on what Tom read about each dwelling unit being limited to parking of 2 vehicles on Wheeler Ave, inclusive of off-street parking spaces on the property and in other off-street parking on Wheeler Avenue, should that also include other permitted locations? Because it's not necessary that they need to be parked on Wheeler Avenue
Well,
necessarily.
if somebody had more than 2 cars and they wanted to park them somewhere else, in a private garage or another on-street spot, what have you, there's no reason to prohibit that. It wouldn't affect Wheeler or the property.
So on Wheeler Avenue should be taken out of that one. Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I thought it should be added on Wheeler Avenue or other permitted locations.
Or other permitted locations?
Only limit
Makes
should be
sense,
limited
like the
to
CVS lot.
parking of 2 vehicles on Wheeler Avenue, inclusive of off-street parking spaces on the property, and another off-street parking on Wheeler Avenue. So you can park 2 cars on the property, on Wheeler Avenue itself, or on any off-street location on Wheeler Avenue. And that's it, those 2 cars there. But if you have a 3rd car, you park it someplace else, or 4th or 5th, that's okay.
But there are 3 spots on the property. And I think our intent was that to limit the number of vehicles for each unit to 2. So you've got 3 on the property, and then there would be 3 that would have to be parked off property.
Somewhere else.
Well, yeah, but you get 2 vehicles per unit that you could park on the property or on Wheeler or on an off-street location on Wheeler. And that's it, no more than 2 in any of those locations. The board doesn't really care. I mean, he's proposed that it's only gonna be limiting the spaces on off-street parking on the property to 2 per unit.
Not necessarily, we've got a lot that's fairly close to there. And for somebody to have a 3rd vehicle and park it in the lot would not
Can't.
meet it's our lot.
But yes, you have a point. If there are 2 vehicles and they can park them in any of those 3, which we're not saying they can, but I mean, they're prohibited from parking them, more than 2 in those places. No, it would still be all right. You have your 3 units, okay?
Right.
And you can have 2 vehicles per unit
Right.
that, if you have the right to do it, are parked on the property or on the street or on any off-street location along Wheeler. If you don't have the right to park in our lot, well, you can't park in our lot, in the village's lot, then you can't park in the village's lot. You're not giving them permission to park in the village's lot by approving this.
What we're trying to do was limit the number of vehicles that someone who is residing in those units can have to 2 per unit. And
Well, no. You wanna make sure that there's no parking, issues raised on this property or on Wheeler as a result of people here having more than 2 vehicles, people living there. Let's say that, and it's a crazy example, but let's say that they live in that, one of those units, okay? And they also have another house in Florida, okay? And they have another car down in Florida. You can't say that the people living up here can't own more than 2 cars. They can park their car in Florida or wherever the heck it is they want. What you don't want is people parking more than 2 vehicles along Wheeler, whether it's off-street parking on this property, on Wheeler itself, or off-street parking on Wheeler.
I think.
So then they would be, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna help clarify. I don't know whether it'll be helpful or not. I was just gonna say, I think what I'm hearing you say, Barry, is that your concern is that they're gonna be parking more than 2 vehicles within the village. And that the whole point of this was not to create further parking problems within the village. To not make it the village's problem that there is not enough parking at that property for the number of vehicles that might show up at that property. So the idea is that they'll be limited to parking of 2 vehicles within the village, like on any village public property,
So,
unless they buy like a lot or a spot from someone else. Is that what you were saying?
I thought that was what we
Yeah,
talked about.
that's what we
It was.
so each dwelling
Yeah,
unit.
my
should-
understanding was you were concerned about traffic impacts on Wheeler, not village-wide. But if you wanna make it village-wide, you certainly can.
I think, Steve, if we just took out vehicles on Wheeler Avenue, so each dwelling unit shall be limited to parking of 2 vehicles, inclusive of the off-street parking spaces on the property and in other off-street parking on Wheeler Avenue.
Or
Or
in
other-
the-
other off-street-
Or in the village, yeah.
Other off-street,
Instead of on Wheeler
Village.
Avenue.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but that leaves on-street parking in the village.
I'm sorry.
That would
And
leave on-street
in
parking
other
in the
on
village.
or off-street parking.
The most important thing is that that each unit will be limited to 2 cars, and that will be in there.
And if
In
they
the
had a
village,
third,
If they had a third car and it was
Well-
in New Windsor or something, you don't care.
if they had a third car and they were able to get parking on private property that's not controlled by the village,
That's
then,
true,
then,
too.
then that's fine.
Okay. So each dwelling unit shall be limited to parking of 2 vehicles on Wheeler Avenue, inclusive of the off-street parking space on the property, and in other off-street parking on Wheeler Avenue, and in other on-street parking in the village, inclusive of municipal parking lots. How's that?
Yeah, it's a lot of words, but
a lot of
it
words.
sounds, it's precise, so.
Well, you can't tell them they can't have more than 2 cars anywhere in the whole wide
Yeah,
world.
yeah.
I mean,
Right.
you-
Well, no, that was not the intent,
No.
of course. It was related to this particular development, this particular
Just to be clear,
apartment.
I'll email you in the morning, Raina. So we're going to add after on Wheeler Avenue, gonna take out the period, make it a comma, and insert the words, and in other on-street parking in the village, inclusive of municipal parking lots. Okay? Does that suit the board?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Any
in the beginning of it, because the mayor had suggested taking out that first reference to Wheeler Avenue. So each dwelling unit shall be limited to parking of 2 vehicles, inclusive of off-street parking spaces on the property and
Fair.
other.
I agree with that.
That's-
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks for
Thanks.
catching that.
Any other corrections, or I'll mean to?
I don't see anything.
Okay, because then what you can do is make a motion to adopt the resolution as amended.
Okay.
Okay.
So could.
But we have a seconded motion right now. So
All
do
right,
I-
that's true. You should probably withdraw the motion and then proceed with the motion to adopt as amended. Since you made it, you should withdraw.
Okay, so I'll withdraw the motion, and I will make a motion to adopt this motion as amended.
Second.
Okay. And that's a roll call vote?
Got it.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Flora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. No, no addendums, reports. Trustee Cheney?
Yes, first off, I would like to give everyone advance notice that the Orange County Mobile Department of Motor Vehicles unit is going to make a return visit to the village on Tuesday, December 12th. It will be open from 10 a.m. until noon, and then closed from noon till 1, and open again from 1 until 3:30. And it will be located at the CVS parking lot at the entrance on Main Street. So it'll be, very obvious, certainly to see. And then just another mention, it's fall and we're picking up leaves, the DPW, and they've begun to do that. They must be placed at the curb in papered bags, and that this will be continuing until the last pickup, which will occur during the week of December 12th.
Great, thank you. Carl? Not yet.
Okay, just very quickly, we are expecting to hear back about the Safe Streets for All grant that we submitted in the summer next month, and the RAISE grant notice of funding opportunity is going to come out in November. So this month, that is both of those are transportation related grants. We did not get the RAISE grant last year. We rolled a lot of those elements into the Safe Streets for All grant, but we did get a highly recommended rating. It was just that there were so many that were requested. So, hoping you'll be willing to work with me again on that, Tom, because that was
Absolutely.
you were amazing. And I think that we'll probably want to have some preliminary conversations about what we might want to go after, but not really get serious into it until we hear back about Safe Streets for All. Because if we don't get that, we'll just probably want to roll the scope into RAISE.
Mary?
A couple of announcements from the Warwick Historical Society. The Warwick Historical Society will be holding its annual wassail party Sunday, December 10th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the A.W. Buckbee Center. Tickets are $25 for society members, $30 for non-members. Tickets are on sale now. You can call 845-986-3236 or visit their website at warwickhistory.org for more information. And also, in the line of the Warwick Historical Society, I have been working on the layout of a book, which is a compilation of stories from our former village historian, Jean Beatty May. The mayor had been working with her before I was on the board, so we have been working on putting that together. That is 28 stories, lots of photographs, really, really fascinating stuff. And it has been such a pleasure working with Jean. And I'm really happy to be part of this as far as putting all the stories together in one place and having them in that format. So we just went through the final edits, and we should have the book in hand early in the new year.
Great, good, thank you. Tom?
Yes, one thing, and thanks to Raina, this is something that Raina brought to my attention. There is a service, and I spoke with one of the founders and principals, called U-Audit Associates. And what they do is they specialize in municipal audits pertaining to a number of areas such as gross tax receipts, franchise fees such as for utility companies, and their services are contingency based. So this is something I'll direct to your desk, Mayor, that I would urge the board to consider, because if this company can come in and do a full audit and come up with some savings over the past X number of years, their fee is contingency based. So if they are successful and we receive money back to the taxpayers, they will get their compensation.
Right.
So I don't think this has been done for quite some Tyne, do you know?
I think 2015 maybe, or 2012. It was before 2015 at least.
Okay.
Was it?
Yes.
Really?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
So what we need to do is look at what they sent us, select which areas of audit we'd like for them to take on,
Okay.
and then we'll wait for their findings.
When we did use them before, there were things that were found, so that was good.
Considerable.
Considerable, yeah. And they are actually, have the stamp of approval of
Of NICOM, right?
NICOM, New York Council
Right.
of Mayors. So that-
One
yeah.
one thing that I would suggest, since this has to do really with some of their contracts and things related to the clerk and treasurer's office, is that any proceeds coming back, I would like the board to consider putting that towards this long-term digitization project in the clerk and treasurer's office, because we do have some grant money, but we're dealing with decades and decades and decades of records, and it's a large effort. So really, any savings, I would like to go towards that to really help and bring us up to really a state of what's considered modern and
But Carly wants that to go to the park.
Or other thing, mobility. I'm just
I can
joking.
see, now we're gonna have a war. That's great.
that's the only report for me.
Oh, that's great. It's a good topic. Thank you.
Just quick
Yeah.
question, who is the money coming from? Like, I missed that part. The audit findings, who would be paying the village?
So some of the and maybe Barry, you might have a better sense of
You
this.
look
but-
at your phone bill, and there's a village tax on your phone bill.
Yeah.
So there are a number of ways that the village receives taxed revenue, and so it's
You
an
don't get
audit
enough.
of
Okay.
those cable companies,
getting
phone
it.
companies.
And have we been getting it, actually?
Yes,
That's
yes.
the question.
And in some cases, smaller companies get eaten by larger companies, and the larger companies just forget to pay those. Yeah.
It's great, yeah.
So we're searching the couch cushions for
That's okay, that's good.
every bit helps.
We do that after Thanksgiving when everybody goes home.
Right.
I have a few things to report. One thing, and sidewalk project is beginning on South Street, at the very end of South Street from Lawrence Avenue to Galloway. And this has been a very important piece for us because it will actually lead to Galloway and the beginning of a potential pedestrian crosswalk there. So that work is starting this week. And recently we were awarded by the Chamber of Commerce, and I have the award here, and it is the 2023 award winner, Commitment to Community. And what it really was about was our work that we did to create outdoor dining during COVID. And I'm very grateful that the Chamber recognized that, and I'll just quickly state the names of all that were involved on the village level. The Warwick Police Department, the Warwick Fire Department, the Mayor's Office, the Village Board of Trustees at the time, Barry Cheney, Bill Lindberg, Eileen Patterson, and George McManus, Village Clerk Raina Abramson, Deputy Clerk Marianne Benedict, DPW Supervisor Mike Mosier, DPW Clerk Kathy Schweitzer, Department of Public Works employees, Code Enforcement Officer, Building Inspector Boris Rudinsky, Parking Enforcement Officer Melissa Hyde, Village Engineer Dave Getz, Village Insurance Broker from WRG Sanford, Jeanette Montgomery, and the Village's insurance company, New York Municipal Insurance Reciprocal. And that was just a work of love and the desire to see our restaurants succeed when they were basically told to close their doors. So I'm grateful that we as a village had the teamwork to work through it, and it was quite a bit of work because we were working with the New York State DOT and we were working with the State Liquor Authority, and they have a lot of rules. So. And also, I want to thank the Warwick Valley Gardeners. There was a tree lighting ceremony just this last weekend, and the Railroad Green looks glorious. They do an extraordinary job all year long. But this is a moment when they really shine and they really make that park sing, and so we're grateful. The theme is the Nutcracker, so it's if you have a chance, you're downtown, take a look at all their good work. And I also want to thank the Shade Tree Commissioner, Lynn Cheney, and its members for the work that they just did recently, just this last week, and it's really the restoration of the tree line on Cottage Street. So that entire little neighborhood, 13 trees were planted, and it really is going to make quite a difference in years to come. And I want to thank the DPW for all the help for all these activities, including the working with the gardeners and of course planting the trees on Cottage Street. And I want to congratulate Melissa Shaw Smith, who was awarded by Orange County Arts Council for her work with Wickham Works and the Warwick Valley Community Center. She is an arts dynamo, and we're lucky to have her. She's done great things. And finally, I just want to, on behalf of the board, wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, and eat well and enjoy.
Can I back up just a second? Because I think something needs to be said about the award that we received and all the perseverance and the willingness of you as a mayor to first of all communicate with the restaurants, and secondly to persevere through a lot of obstacles, and Raina, you were right there through the whole process. The obstacles that continually got thrown at us, and your willingness to persevere through all of that, and make sure that the team that you cited here tonight did its best to make that happen. So thank you.
I appreciate
I
that.
just wanted to add one more thing to this. After you had this up and running, I received a phone call from the village mayor of Monroe asking to be put in touch with you so they can do the same thing, and you were able to help them navigate, and they were able to do that as well.
Thank you.
That speaks volumes.
Yes.
Those were the long forms that I read to the chamber. But thank you very much. It was a lifeline for some of our businesses.
Yes.
So that's what we do. Public comment. Any other comments to the board this evening? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Is that
Aye.
a motion?
Yeah, thanks for all your work on that.
It was
Really
Right,
enjoyable.
sharp, chief.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. What are you guys
We're
doing?
still live. My mom's in town,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and we're gonna have another hoot nanny.
Thank you, Scott.
Tom,
Nice
Nice job.
Good night.
good night.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.